We
Let's
do
see
have
how
a
many.
quorum.
Perfect. All right, well then we will get together. I know Aaron has to do some traveling today, so we'll get him on his way. And so today is Monday, October 28th, 2024. It is 10:01 a.m. and I am going to call the Legislative Permanent School Fund Commission to order, and a quorum is present. So welcome all of you that are able to join us here this morning. First thing on our agenda is to approve the minutes of October 14th, 2024. Do I have a motion? Is there a motion to approve the October 14th minutes? Senator Housechild, would you like to make that motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Do I have a second? Senator Farnsworth, would you like to second that?
Second.
Great. Thank you so much. With that, the minutes are approved. And so we're going to continue the discussion around the boundary water canoe area with more of the project overview. And we have Aaron Vandelin and the DNR to provide an update on the Boundary Waters project. So Aaron, if you'd like to take it away.
Thank you, Senator Kunesh. Again, Aaron Vandelin, School Trust Lands Director. And just coming out of the last meeting, and we talked about a little bit of an update on where this project, or how this project started and where it's at currently and how we got here. I just wanted to start by saying I've been working on this for 15 years. It's been a long process, and I am comfortable with where we're at. This is the recommendation to condemn the lands that I made to the DNR a while back. DNR made that decision to condemn the lands, and we're moving forward with that. We won't have, just to be clear, we won't have all of the valuation and any of that done until probably February. I think after everything's appraised and gone through technical reviews and things of that nature. So we won't know what a new value of the school trust lands in the boundary waters is going to be until then. So just wanted to be clear that I've been working on this for a long time. I think this is the path forward to get this project across the finish line and resolve those issue of school trust lands in the boundary waters. We've been, it's been around for 60 years now. So I'm going to go through real quick a timeline that I've maintained since the beginning, and just stop me along the way. I'm just going to hit some real key highlighted dates. If you have questions, please stop me. So as we know, 1964, the Wilderness Act was passed. Boundary waters was included as part of that. It did include language for an exchange or providing access to private or state-owned lands inside the wilderness. In 1978, 14 years later, passed the Boundary Waters Wilderness Act, which established the southern boundaries of the boundary waters and the minerals management corridor. A couple decades later, 1997, the Minnesota congressional delegation sent a letter to the Secretary of Agriculture to request funds to pursue resolving the school trust lands in the boundary waters. There was and that was Congressman Oberstar, and then that led that the Iron Range delegation at the time, and that was for a 100% sale. And the Iron Range delegation at the time actually sent a letter to Congressman Oberstar and said, no, we only wanted 100% exchange. So nothing happened coming out of that. A year later, the Office of Legislative Auditor produced the school trust lands evaluation report, And in that valuation, or in that evaluation report, the Office of Legislative Auditor directed that the state continue to pursue compensation for the permanent school fund lands that were locked within inside the boundary waters. The very next year, in 1999, the House passed resolution number 3. It was House File 426, that memorialized to the President and Congress to enact a law that will expedite the exchange of the intermingled state and federal lands within the Superior National Forest boundaries. Coming out of that in 1999, there was a $200,000 appropriation from the Minnesota legislature to the University of Minnesota Duluth to do a small valuation of the school trust lands around Trout Lake, and they appraised roughly 5,200 acres. That 5,200 acres came back with a value of roughly $3.9 million, or roughly $740 an acre. That appraisal and that proposal was sent then to the Forest Service, requesting to extrapolate that value across all school trust lands in the boundary water, so across all 80,000+ acres, and to move forward with an exchange under that scenario. The Forest Service at the time declined to do so, and said that they have to consider the impact to all of the acres and the value of all of the acres. They just can't look at 5,000 acres and extrapolate it. So that was done. Extrapolating that out across all the acres, came up with obviously a different value than what we have today. But 2003, really when that was done, 2002, 2003, that was did not move forward. And couldn't move forward with that proposal. The Forest Service was unwilling to, and I honestly agree with that. You want all of your lands appraised, not just a subset. Moving forward, 5, 6, 7 more years, the predecessor to this Permanent School Fund Commission was the Permanent School Fund Advisory Committee. And that advisory committee established a sub-work group to look at how to address this boundary waters, school trust lands in the boundary waters. That work group had DNR involved, U.S. Forest Service involved, St. Louis County was involved, Grace Kelleher from the Minnesota School Board Association, and Betsy Dobb from the Friends of the Boundary Waters, had Wayne Brandt from Minnesota Forest Industries, and Frank Ongaro from Mining Minnesota. We also had a number of observers there as well. That group really fared it out and worked through and negotiated what we began working on much later, which was the 1/3, or the hybrid model, 1/3 exchange, 2/3 land sale. So that was in 2010, and if you just bear with me 1 second, I'm going to start sharing my screen because I want to show a few things. So the first one that I'm going to share is a Senate File 2494. I hope everyone's seeing that. It's resolution number 1 from 2010, another Minnesota resolution that seeks to advance not a 100% exchange that they had back in the 90s, but this hybrid 1/3 exchange, 2/3 land sale piece. And that is really what we really started working on, the boundary waters piece. That this resolution and this hybrid model gave way to 2 statutes that were passed in 2012. The first statute, I'm sorry, it's gonna show all these bookmarks for a second. The first statute was giving the state and the DNR authority to expedite the land exchange. The expedited land exchange really allowed us to work a little bit outside of what DNR's current process is to do the exchange. And I wanted to point this out. The statute under 9280 does require us in the state at the agency level to prioritize 4 townships. These are the Virginia mainly the Virginia Ranger districts and just on the St. Louis Lake County border around the Duluth complex minerals. And I'll show that on a map in a little bit. So this is the exchange statute, allowed us to expedite the exchange. And then at the same time, we also got Minnesota statute 9282, which is the private sale of surplus lands within the boundary waters. And I highlighted a few things. One's Commissioner may sell to the United States. The state-owned lands may include state land for which the school trust interest was extinguished through condemnation. So we actually have to, and I want to point this out, we have to condemn the school trust interest before they can be sold directly to the Forest Service. So that's where we're at now based on these 2 statutes. And I'm going to stop sharing and just go back real quick to my timeline that I'm not sharing. But so in in April of 2012, that's where we got the language to prioritize those 4 areas, and that was Senate File 1750. About the same time, there was congressional action, and Representative Kravac introduced House File 5545, and that file actually was contrary to Minnesota, the Minnesota resolution, and it contemplated 100% exchange. It didn't have an opportunity for a private sale, and it also removed the exchange transaction from NEPA review. That bill did not go anywhere. It was not included in a law, and I think it just died when that Congress ended. So in August of 2012, the state formally proposed the 1/3 exchange to the federal government, and that was in a letter to the Forest Service asking to start the exchange. We initiated that exchange then, and shortly thereafter started working on the feasibility analysis, which is the first step in the federal process. That feasibility analysis requires the state to do a mineral characterization determination in conjunction with the Forest Service. And I'm going to share real quick that screen as well, and I'll explain the map when it comes up, just so you can see. So what you're looking at is just a map of the boundary waters that was produced for this mineral characterization determination. It's hard to get out sometimes. And again, this was done for the exchange feasibility analysis. And what you're seeing is so just going from left to right on the screen, the blue sections and those blue squares, those are school trust parcels in a non-mineralization zone. The green and the pink is a greenstone belt and the known mineralization that arcs across the boundary waters. All of the red squares that you see are school trust lands with prospective mineralization or known mineralization based on mapping. And I just want to point out that most of the stuff that you're looking at in the middle of the map, that's, you know, blue, green, then the pink, and then the light blue, you can kind of see the county lines, but right in the middle of the screen, that's Lake County. The blue in the western or the left side of the screen's St. Louis, and then over on the other side is obviously Cook. But you can see that most of the orange that's in this blue in Lake County is has a higher mineral value or potential than some of the other lands, and then we just carry across it and into Cook County. So when we identified these lands this way during the process, it made us look at, okay, which lands were more likely to be exchange candidates and which parcels, federal parcel, or excuse me, school trust parcels were more likely to be the 2/3 sale candidates. And we worked with the Forest Service through this to make sure that it was somewhat equal across the different counties. There was the acreage isn't equal across the counties, but we tried our best to equalize the 1/3, 2/3 exchange sale candidates across those acres. So that was the mineral characterization determination, and I'm going to stop sharing again, switch to a different map in a second. But that mineral characterization determination was completed in 2014. At that time, the DNR entered into an agreement to initiate the land exchange with the Forest Service based on the feasibility analysis and things. The Forest Service did determine that an EIS was appropriate. I agreed with that decision at the time. I still agree with that decision. It just made more sense that everything was going to be out in the public and transparent to me, and that there weren't going to be any questions about how we were proceeding in number of public meetings, number of comment periods, and things that we worked through with the Forest Service on the exchange proposal. During that same time, the state and the Forest Service were working to get some traction, I'll say, on federal appropriations for the 2/3 federal acquisition phase of that, and really ran into some roadblocks there. The project wasn't being ranked highly nationally for an appropriation, and at that time and at those meetings, I can tell you firsthand, I heard it from the 1/3 exchange, or the 100% exchange crowd, or the 100% sale crowd, and just it was a compromise. This hybrid model, 1/3, 2/3, it was like splitting Solomon's baby, or Solomon splitting the baby, excuse me. But I heard it from both sides that, well, if you're not making progress on getting any federal acquisition dollars, we're not going to support the exchange. And the same on the flip side, the same. So there were some struggles with the appropriations until about 2017, 2018, and we started a conversation, the Forest Service and the state, with the Conservation Fund, and looked to model it, this project, as a 1/3 exchange with state federal exchange, and then a 2/3 exchange between the state and the Conservation Fund. It's a private forest land alternative, also known as Plan B. As soon as we started working with the Conservation Fund, or shortly thereafter, we started ranking very highly in the federal appropriation process. And after about 3 or 4 years of working through that with the Conservation Fund and advancing the 1/3 exchange with the feds and the 2/3 exchange with the conservation fund, and just to be clear, the conservation fund would have exchanged industrial forest lands for the school trust lands in the boundary waters, and then sold those former school trust lands in the boundary waters to the federal government. But the trust would have received land outside of the boundary waters. So continue to work through that. We got appraised values finalized in August of, I believe it was August of 2020, 2021. Worked through a number of processes there with regard to the appraisals, and trying to get all parties in agreement with the appraisals. We were unable to do that, and during that time and during the NEPA review process as well, the Forest Service had received thousands of comments with regard to this exchange, both in support and against. So there were a number of things that were lining up to derail, and probably not the best use of words, but to really halt that project. We couldn't move forward. We couldn't agree on appraised values, and we had other groups that were opposed to it as well. And we worked through that from August of 2021 until just last January, and that's when the decision was made to withdraw the exchange proposal. So the state withdrew its exchange proposal with the federal government, and withdrew its exchange proposal with the conservation fund as well. Again, could not agree to values, and there were other groups that were opposed to the exchange. So we've been working to move forward with the condemnation under 9282 since January, really. And I have not shown the map that I was going to show, but I'm getting back to it, and I want to show how we approached looking at these federal candidate parcels. And it's a 2008 map that was produced by DNR Lands and Minerals. It looked, so what you're seeing now is St. Louis, northeastern Minnesota, the Arrowhead region. Boundary waters is at the top. Superior National Forest outlined as well, and with a green overlay. The school trust parcels on your screen in the boundary waters are the purple color, and everything outside of the boundary waters that is flagged is where we were looking to consolidate school trust parcels through the exchange. So you can see, I mentioned it before, right in the middle of the screen, Senate File 1750 priority areas is identified. That's this Virginia purchase unit right here, and then this section right here, where we're, sorry about that, where we were required by law to prioritize those federal candidates. I can tell you those federal candidates were prioritized. They were at the top of the priority list. Most of the other lands that we were looking to acquire, and why we were looking to acquire them, were really around consolidation of school trust lands for management purposes. You can see there's a big block of school trust lands in this Virginia Ranger District on the western side of it, around Orr. We had a large block of land that we were trying to block up there with not only federal candidate parcels, but also the conservation fund parcels that had been acquired from Potlatch. We were also looking to consolidate up in the Cavatogama area, and then excuse me, and then right here in Cook. And at the time, the reason why we had identified that Cook area is an area to prioritize is one, the timber resource there, and two, there was some discussion about LP actually building a new facility there. So we were encouraged by that and tried to identify lands in that area. But you can see by this map, there are very few candidates that were in this mineralization area that we were able to prioritize from a federal standpoint, federal candidates. The other thing I wanted to point out is the law, the exchange law 9280, did require that we also try to reunite surface and mineral estates if we had severed minerals in the area, and it was a federal surface and a state mineral. We were trying to reunite those, and we were able to identify, and if memory serves, around 3,700 acres for that purpose. And don't quote me on that. I believe that number's close. Most of those state minerals that we would have been able to reunite with the surface were tax forfeited minerals. So we would have, in essence, had, if the exchange would have moved forward, the state federal exchange or the state TCF exchange, we would have had a school trust surface estate with tax forfeited mineral estate, but state and state, so-called. So that was the history of what I wanted to walk you through and let you know how we got to where we're at. I don't know, Senator Kunesh, if there are questions or specific things that I need to address that I didn't address, but.
Well, first of all, will you be able to send us the statutes that you were referring to, or the resolutions, and then maybe your timeline, so that we can have those to review on our own?
I can definitely do that. I'll put
Okay.
a package together. I sent the maps out last week.
Right.
I did not send out my timeline. It's an internal working document that I
Okay.
use.
Okay.
I can I will
I know
clean it
you're
up.
traveling and you're busy, but if you find an opportunity to kind of get that to us, that would be great.
I'll get it to you today. I'll
Oh.
clean up the timeline and get it before I leave today. But
Okay. Are there any questions so far on any of these things that Aaron's brought up? I think what my biggest takeaway right now is that this isn't something that just we started working on. And when I say we, I mean the school trust committee. I served on the committee when I was in the House, and now I've been on it since I've been in the Senate. And I know that Aaron was working on this well before I joined the legislature, 8 years ago or so. So this isn't something that's new, and you can tell from his timeline and the discussion and the past work of the legislature, that this has been really well thought out and planned process. I know that last time we met, there was some of the folks that really were concerned about letting go of more of our trust lands, like some of the other states have done. I mean, some of the states have absolutely none of it left. But one of the things that I'm really glad for this morning is that that Aaron's able to lay out the thoughtful process here. And Senator Farnsworth, you wanted to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have some comments, but I do have a question for Aaron before I make my comments. I think in the last meeting, Aaron, you said that the Mintac mine provided about $90 million per year into the school trust. Did I have that number correct?
No, Senator, that number's not correct. It produces, so annually Mintac produces about 90% of the revenue. So that's somewhere in the $25 to $30 million a year range. But it's
Um,
90% of the total gross is from Mintac.
Okay, okay. So I'm gonna have to redo my math here. And so I'm kind of looking at this situation sort of like when somebody buys stocks, right? And I've bought stocks over the years, and then when I see that they drop, I panic and I'm like, I got to get what I can out of this before it's too late. And I feel like that's sort of what we're doing. We're like, okay, we've invested all this time, and I appreciate all of the time trying to do the swap, but I feel like we're going to sell our state, sell the students of Minnesota short. And so I looked to see how much federal land is around the Mintac mine. And what I found, if I did my math right, and everybody knows I have problems with algebra, but if I did the math right, the US government owns 3,438 acres adjacent to the Mintac mine. And after checking with the company, I know that for every 40-acre parcel, they mine about, it's between 0.3 and 0.8 years per 40-acre parcel. So if we, kind of split the difference and say that it takes them about a half year, depending on the quality of the ore, per 40-acre parcel, and we can assume that all 3,438 of these acres have the best ore. But and I have to redo the math here because I was thinking the $90 million number. This is somewhere north of $500 million, I think, on the low end, that just the Mintac mine could potentially put into the fund. And if I remember from the last presentation, if we get like the 30 or 40 million and it grows at a certain rate, I think it was going to be less than 100 million over 30 years. Or if we're patient and if we continue to work with our partners at the federal level, just with what we could get right next to the Mintac mine, I mean, we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars, which is, I think, a much better return on investment. And I understand your position. You have to get money. Your job is to get money for the school trust now. My position is I want to see the life of the Mintac mine extended beyond, my lifetime, which 3,400 acres would do that. But also, I mean, this is an enormous opportunity for the school trust. And so I think that we need to put the brakes on this and continue working with our partners at the federal level. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Senator Housechild.
Thanks, Senator Kunish. I would just concur with the comments by Senator Farnsworth. And during the last meeting, I had introduced a resolution that we oppose the current sale and go back to reviewing opportunities for an exchange, especially as it relates to Mintac. And I'd like to renew that resolution and have a vote within our committee.
Second.
Before we do that, Aaron, can you explain what the consequences of such a resolution might be? And what does that do you have a resolution that's written up at all, Senator Housechild, that we can review?
I do not have one written up, but I certainly, I'm happy to write one or do whatever we need to do.
Okay. Aaron, can you give us an outline or some idea of what such a resolution might do, the consequences?
Yeah, I can, and I didn't mention this, and I'm reluctant to mention it because the school trust isn't involved in this part of the project. But there's not just the Forest Service acquisition of school trust lands in the boundary waters. There's also the state and the county, St. Louis County, working to acquire the conservation fund lands that the conservation fund purchased for the private forest land alternative, aka Plan B, the state TCF exchange. So my understanding is that today is that the state, the DNR, will be acquiring lands from the conservation fund for the same reasons that we would have in the exchange, and that is for natural resource consolidation management purposes and things of that nature. I don't have the maps. I would have to get them from the DNR or St. Louis County, but I'm almost positive St. Louis County has identified conservation fund lands that are around that Mintac tailings basin. I'd have to circle back with Julie Marinucci with St. Louis County on that, but if memory serves, I believe the state will be acquiring lands in that area. They will not be school trust lands, admittedly, but to Senator Farnsworth's point, we will be acquiring lands that will protect that Mintac mining opportunities in the future. They'll just be in tax forfeited status or DNR status. I don't know, to answer the question, I don't know what effect a resolution from this committee would have on the DNR's decision to move forward with condemnation. And I don't want to venture a guess.
So just to be clear, if we were to pass this resolution today, does that bring the whole process to a screeching halt?
Not in my mind, Senator, no. The commission has authority to provide advice to DNR, as do I. And I've provided my advice. I don't know that the commission's provided their advice. I will reiterate it again. We do not know, we do not have all the facts. We don't know what the value is going to be. We won't know until February. With all due respect, I believe the motion or the resolution is premature without all the facts.
Representative Igo, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, thank you, Senator Kunish. I'll just make a comment to this. I think maybe as we're talking about this resolution, there's deep concern by our group here. So, you know, when we're putting this together, I think that it just needs to be said here, there's huge concerns for the future of Minnesota school children. There's huge concerns for the future of the school trust. We want to be briefed regularly on how this is moving forward, but the facts as we have them right now, this group stands in opposition. And I think that that would just make a strong comment that our job as legislators, we are taking very seriously in watching this sale. So I think that Senator Houschild's motion is still relevant. And it can be, and we can phrase this letter in opposition in a way that keeps us abreast of the issue, but also makes it very clear that we don't like the way things are progressing right now.
Senator Kunish, I would suggest that we, before we vote on any resolution, that we see the resolution in writing.
Yeah.
And although I support the idea, I'd like to have it in writing and share it among members so that we have something definitive to work with.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was leaning towards as well. Again, just as Aaron has said, we don't all of the facts. We don't, maybe some of us have more background information than the rest of us. And I would really like to see what this resolution actually states. And before I sign on to it or I agree, So, Senator Hochschild or, the rest of you, if you want to put together this resolution, we can meet again, send it out to us. We can discuss it and, go forward. And I see your hand is up, Senator Hochschild.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and members. We did bring this resolution last time, and the whole goal was to come back to discuss the resolution and vote on it, from my understanding. I'm happy to put it in writing. I may need staff support to do that, but I do not support waiting and doing another meeting, because that was the whole point of this meeting. And so my goal would be to vote on it today. I think members have been sort of waiting for this meeting, prepared. We, had opportunities to research or do whatever we needed to do. So I don't know, normally in committee, we would have one of the attorneys that would, help us write it so that it was written the way it needed to be. I don't know if we have that available to us now. Otherwise, I'm happy to take a stab at it myself, of course. I just don't want to write it in the wrong way. So if there was
Exactly.
a member that could help us, that would be great.
Okay.
Or if Aaron could help us.
I don't know, that's Aaron's purview. Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to comment. So Aaron said that this would be premature, but we're going full speed ahead at selling the land. And so if this resolution is premature, then also without this commission having all the information, moving forward with the land sale is also premature. And so I'm 100% in support of Senator Hochschild's motion here, because it seems that we're powerless to do anything to say, hey, let's put the brakes on this, because we're being told we're going to move forward with this. This is the recommendation. And so this is the only thing that we have to try and slow this down until we have the rest of the information. And so we need, we really do need to pass this resolution today, put the brakes on this. And I did just redo the math here, potentially $1 billion in ore at that in money for the permanent school trust fund at Mintac, $1 billion possibly, and it's probably on the high end. But even if it's only 10% of that, we're still looking at $100 million, which I think that would be low. So if we need a second for Senator Hochschild's motion, I will make the second on that.
So my question, Aaron, and to follow up on Senator Farnsworth's comment about the money that's coming from Mintac, are these lands the lands that he's talking about? Are these potential? I mean, these are in the boundary waters, right? And I don't know that mining is allowed in the boundary waters. So are these lands that perhaps cannot ever be touched because they are protected in that area? So I'm not really clear on exactly what Senator Farnsworth is explaining to us and those lands specifically.
So, and I started sharing the map again.
Okay, thanks.
That DNR produced. This is the Virginia Ranger District, and Mintac is, I'm going to say, right here, probably over here.
Farther south and west, farther south.
Farther south and west.
Farther
This is
south.
ore. All right. You can see on here there were oh, there's Mountain Iron. There, that's what I was looking for. Thank you, Senator. Those lands were not identified for we don't have any federal candidate exchange parcels here. I just want to point that out. There were no federal exchange parcels here. The best, from what I've been told, the best ore that's left on the range, for what it's worth, is right here.
And that's what we're talking about, because the Mintac mine stretches about 15 miles.
It does.
So that it's a huge mine. So that area north of Buell and Kinney
Yeah.
is the land that we're talking about.
And this is already school trust lands.
But north of that, that's not, that's owned by the federal
Right.
government.
Yeah, and there were 640 some acres. I just again want to point out that these are the lands that are supposed to, as I understood it, are going to be acquired by the Conservation Fund and the DNR, or from the conservation, from the St. Louis County and the DNR from the Conservation Fund. I don't have those maps. But Senator Kunesh, these lands are not inside the boundary waters. These are
Okay.
right next to
And,
right next
and
to
these
current
are the
mining.
lands that are part of the exchange or no?
There is no exchange. The state withdrew its exchange proposal.
Okay.
So these were candidates in the exchange, but we withdrew that exchange proposal, or DNR withdrew that exchange proposal.
Okay. So when Senator Farnsworth is doing his math, his algebra, the lands that he is talking about, are those part of the exchange?
They would have been the ones that I have highlighted on the map.
But they're not anymore. And so those parcels that are part of the exchange now, do they have anything to do with Minitech?
The lands, so there is no exchange.
Okay.
The state withdrew it. What I'm saying is that,
Okay, I got it.
so the Conservation Fund acquired roughly 40,000 acres of industrial forest lands from Potlatch-Deltic. Those were the lands that the Conservation Fund bought outside the boundary waters to exchange for the 2/3 lands of school trust lands inside the boundary waters.
Got it.
That state TCF exchange is not moving forward, again, because of appraisal issues. The county and the state have tentatively agreed to acquire from the Conservation Fund those lands. I'm almost positive that the county, St. Louis County, has identified these lands as part of the lands that they want to acquire from the Conservation Fund.
And just to follow up, Senator Farnsworth, have you spoken with the counties up there at all about this?
I have spoken to the counties, and there's mixed messaging with the counties. Which again would support the argument that the whole process needs to stop until everybody has information. But we're being told, nope, we're gonna move forward with this. We have this is the history, and I get that, but we're basically being told we're going to do this. There's probably some gain for the county, some loss for the county, but for the permanent school trust fund, I think the loss is much more than the potential gain by $30 or $40 million.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Senator Duckworth, your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. And Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I hear you saying is essentially there are some other options that could be considered. Maybe they've been considered in the past. They didn't quite come to fruition. But for example, if we talk about a land exchange specific to the area that was just on the map recently, I think you and Grant are both saying, probably Representative Igo, that we could check off a lot of boxes. We could really do a great job serving the people in that district, in that area, and in a specific industry, while also finding maybe what could be an even larger return for the school trust lands and for our kids in schools throughout the state of Minnesota. It also sounds like there's questions regarding what land exactly we're talking about and what the county may or may not be also pursuing, in addition to a couple of other government agencies. So, I think I've heard enough at this point to support Senator Housechild and others saying, hey, let's just push a pause button. Let's get more clarity regarding this specific issue and then chart a course into the future, which probably will allow us to collectively achieve what we're all trying to achieve here, which is best use of Minnesota lands, taking care of our environment, and also providing funds for school districts across the state of Minnesota. I think that we can find that happy combination of things if we give ourselves enough time to do so. Thank you.
Got it. Representative Igo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to concur with Senator Duckworth was just saying there, and with my colleague Senator Hochschild. I think we're ready to do this. To put in perspective what we're trying to iterate here, and it was said earlier in the meeting, right? So the Mintac mine produces, let's just call it 25 million a year for the school trust. This proposed sale is 32 million. So 1 year of mining at Mintac is about the money we're getting for all of this land. I think that shows clearly what we could potentially be doing for the school trust lands if we sell these lands. So I think that this commission as a whole, predominantly speaking in the majority, that no, we need to stop this up. We need to think twice and act once. And I think we have the ability as a commission to move forward saying, yep, let's work on that letter. And we can move that to staff. And then staff can start preparing that letter for us. I don't think we do that in other committees and other commissions all the time. I don't think this is too much different. So I just want to express my support again for my colleague, Senator Hochschild's motion, and I hope we can get a vote on it here today.
And Senator, Representative Newton.
Thank you, Senator Kunish. I'm just wondering as I hear this now, I'm in support of holding off on this, but are we sort of behind the gun in terms of what the state and the county are trying to do? In other words, will they be moving forward to try to acquire this land while we're waiting? I think we need legislation, that's introduced early in the session to make sure that any land in that area is transferred to the school trust and that doesn't go to the county or DNR or some other state agency. I would appreciate a comment from Aaron on that.
Sure. Aaron, do you have a response?
I do, Senator, and thank you, Representative Newton. The school trust, one of the reasons why the state withdrew its exchange proposal is really due to the work that we did with tribal governments throughout the process. We originally started off with, in the state federal exchange, I'm going to say 45,000 federal candidate parcels. Working through the tribal consultation process, the Forest Service tribal consultation process, not the states. There were a number of requests to remove federal candidates that would have gone to the trust, really because of the impact to their exercise of treaty rights. And a lot of it had to do with wild ricing, as you can imagine. That was the initial piece of it. At the end, there was a joint letter that was sent to the Forest Service where the three bands in the 1854 Treaty Authority said that they did not want to see an expansion of school trust ownership inside the treaty area. There's a number of issues with school trust management inside that inside the 1854 ceded territory. I don't want to really get into the details on it because I don't know all the issues. I just know that there are some issues with the management. Some at Mintac, some with forestry. So I don't know that Senator or Representative Newton that the school trust would have received any lands. The state withdrew its exchange proposal request because of the comments through the NEPA process, because of the issues with the appraisals, and because of the, you know, the concern with tribal nations exercising their treaty rights on school trust lands. School trust lands are open for outdoor recreation and things of that nature, but they are managed for the trust and only the trust. So I don't know that we would have gotten any more lands, so to speak, with that. The you know, and I don't know that I don't know that I want to do this, but I'm going to, so just bear with me. As I said, I've been working on this for years, and yes, I want to see something get done. The reason I said it was premature is because we do not have all the facts. The facts give us the details that we need to make informed decisions. And we won't have those until February. And what I'm talking about is the appraised value. If there is a motion or a resolution for the DNR or the Office of School Trust Lands to stop working on the this sale component, the sale process, I don't know how we stop, because we've already hired a contractor to do the appraisal. We've already spent the money for the appraisal that was appropriated to the school trust office by the legislature. So I don't know that it's wise to push pause right now, because if we push pause now, we're just delaying when we're going to get the facts, i.e. the appraised value. I don't know that the appraised value is going to be the same as the value that we had in 2020. 4 years have passed. The reason I say that is what I've seen with appraisals recently. Values have increased. So I don't know that I answered your question, Representative Newton, but I tried.
Thank you, Aaron. Yes, you did.
So, Aaron, if we pass a resolution today, this is a recommendation. It's not binding, saying that the process won't continue, because that would perhaps take legislation to bring it to a halt. And then my second question or thought is, if you have already hired this land appraiser, you have this contract, this resolution, would it bring that to, excuse me, bring that to a halt as well? So just so we know what those two cause and effects are.
Thanks, Senator. I don't know what DNR's decision would be to push pause on the appraisal or not. I'm not going to speak for DNR, and they're not here today. They were unavailable with short notice to get somebody to attend. So I don't know what their decision would be if you pass that resolution. With respect to legislation, we're operating under current law. That's why I showed them early, 9280 and 9282. 9282 is the law that expedites the sale and requires us to condemn the school trust lands. So I'm working under appropriations specifically for this project from this commission, who helped get me these appropriations.
Yeah. But the resolution doesn't automatically, it's a recommendation. I want to say, is it binding? Does it actually bring the whole thing to a halt, or is it just a document that the DNR will take into consideration?
I believe the DNR would have to take it into consideration.
Okay.
Senator, I don't know what decision they would make. I haven't had those conversations with them.
Okay. Senator Heisman, you had your hand up next.
It's Representative Heitzman. Thank you, Madam
Oh, so
Chair.
sorry.
No, I have been listening, and quite honestly, I think it's the will of this body, if I could guess, that we bring this discussion of a resolution to a vote. And it does appear that has bipartisan support today. So I'm not sure why we continue to delay. There may be questions, but it seems a little inappropriate, as this has been for a month approximately, or maybe even longer. And if people really wanted more information, they had plenty of time to get that on their own or to approach staff to get that. I'm prepared to vote. I have heard from a number of members and have offline asked a number of questions to get the information I need as a legislator and as a member of this body to be informed. And I would be supporting the resolution to delay and to tap the brakes on this. It appears that it's not just here, but a number of folks outside of this commission that are sharing their feelings as well. And I would like to, for one, have the opportunity to see where this body stands. So I would suggest, Madam Chair, that we just simply go to a vote.
Thank you, Representative. I guess as a former teacher, I like to get all the information before making any kind of decision. And Senator Farnsworth did bring up a good point about the counties. We haven't heard from the counties either. And so I just want to make sure that we're hearing from everybody, and not everybody does their homework. So I appreciate you doing that,
Madam Chair.
Representative.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. That's very nice. I'm glad that we have our personal background to back up our decision making. And as a builder and as a legislator, I like to do my homework as well and have the appropriate facts to make a decision. I'm simply stating that I believe we're at that point.
Thank you. Senator Housechild.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to let folks know that I sent the proposed resolution via email. Apologies if that went to some folks' inbox that are not here, but I was having some trouble with the chat function. I believe Mina also was able to share that via the chat function. As you can see, it says that we would recommend a pause to the sale of the lands within the Boundary Water Canoe area and propose that they continue exploring the land exchange and land sale combination from previous recommendations. So you can see that resolution there. I will just state as well that I have spoken with the county involved, and it felt a little bit like a sense of neutrality. I mean, I don't want to speak for them. They do have some involvement, but they also have their own land deals going on as well. So I just want it to be known that I have spoken with them. I'm not doing my homework. So very much have talked to them. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So the resolution does show up in the chat now if you want to take a look. You can read it on your own. I'm just going to give you a minute here to read through it. Does anybody have any questions about this resolution or possible editing? Seeing none, I will ask our staff here if they are ready for a to do a vote on this resolution that has been proposed by Senator Housechild.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. If each member can state if they would like to pause on Senator Houschild's resolution or proceed, that would be great. I'll go down the name of the list of names I have here. Senator Kunesh.
I'm going to vote no.
Representative Newton.
Oh, no.
Representative Bakeberg.
Yes.
Senator Duckworth.
Yes.
Senator Acorn.
Acorn votes aye.
Senator Farnsworth.
Yes.
Senator Hostile,
Yes.
Representative Heitzman,
Yes.
Representative Eigel.
Yes.
Madam Chair, there are 7 votes to proceed with Senator Hostile's resolution.
So with that, the resolution does pass. And I guess the next step would be to share that. I'm not exactly sure the process that it will take. Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity for us to work through that. And thanks, Grant, for bringing that forward. I just want to get back to very quickly one thing that was mentioned before, and Aaron, I can certainly appreciate where it's coming from and the work that's been done leading up to this point. For the purpose of discussion, or essentially just giving you my 2 cents on the appraisal issue, I don't necessarily see an issue with an appraisal being conducted, and I don't necessarily see how or why this would potentially stop that. What really caught my attention last meeting was the formal proceedings of the condemnation process, or the idea that that land could find its way through that condemnation process this far along into the process already, and us maybe not necessarily realizing where it was. So for what it's worth, I think there are still some things that can continue forward, but that was really something I think we all being very clear with the DNR and our comfort level as to how far along they move and how quickly they move along should be expressed, acknowledging that is, quote unquote, a recommendation. So, and perhaps it would be beneficial to have them in a future meeting, and I would hope that they would see this as a big enough priority that they could find or free somebody up to be a part of the conversation, or if they can't be on a Zoom, to perhaps provide us some information that we can read prior to that. So, Madam Chair, again, appreciate your time, appreciate the collaboration that's occurred on this meeting, and hopefully we can continue working our way forward and finding some sort of a solution that will be best for the entire state of Minnesota and all of our school kids across the state. Thanks.
Thank you for that. I think we're all here to do just that. All right. Are there any other questions? I know that there was discussion about meeting again in December for additional information. Are you all interested in still doing that? Continuing this conversation and growing our understanding of the processes? And if so, are there dates? Good. Dates in December. Mina, do you have some dates in mind?
I think Aaron might have some dates in mind.
Okay.
Senator, I can point out, I don't know that it's gonna, I don't know that it works for anyone because it's the day before the election, but there is another meeting scheduled for next Monday at on the 4th. If
right.
we wanted to continue that, there's meetings scheduled on the 4th. And I can always work my schedule around everyone else's. The only Monday that I'm not available in December is the 16th. I'll be in travel status again, but I have it blocked on my calendar right now for December 2nd. We have a meeting scheduled for November 4th, and I have a block on my calendar for November 18th, November 25th, and December 2nd. I don't know that actually not the 25th, I'm sorry. That's the Permanent School Fund Distribution Task Force on the 25th.
Yeah. Folks, are you interested in coming back November 18th? Unless you say no, I will schedule that and see who can show up. And I think it is important that we continue this conversation. And if there are other issues with the school trust funds, we can talk about it then. Maybe we want to have the county come in and talk to us about this, or have the DNR come in and talk to us about this a little bit more. So, unless nobody says, I guess we're just gonna tentatively plan for November 18th.
Are we canceling the 4th then, Senator?
Yes, let's cancel the 4th and plan for the 18th. That'll definitely give us time to think more, process more, look at the situation in different lights, whatever we want to do. And then let's come back on the 18th and continue to learn and discuss this whole process. But in the meantime, the resolution did pass today, and we will continue that process and see where it takes us. Are there any other questions or business anybody wanted to bring up? With not seeing any of that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for